Little girl walked into the Millionaire CEO's office with her resume and 12 words that made him cry. Before we dive into this emotional story, drop a comment below. Where in the world are you watching from? Hit the subscribe button and turn on notification to see more videos like this. The downtown skyline glittered like crushed diamonds against the afternoon sky. But on the 47th floor of that gleaming tower, Thomas Rivera didn't notice the view anymore. He hadn't truly noticed anything beyond spreadsheets and profit margins for years. Thomas Rivera didn't cry. Not when his first company collapsed beneath him. Not when his second wife walked away with divorce papers and half his assets. Not even at his mother's funeral, where he stood stone-faced as they lowered her casket. Emotion was inefficient. Sentiment was weakness. At least, that's what he told himself as he built an empire worth billions. But today, a 10-year-old girl would change that with just 12 words. The contrast couldn't have been more stark. While Thomas analyzed quarterly projections in his corner office, little Sofia Rodriguez sat on a plastic hospital chair, carefully counting crumpled dollar bills and loose change. $5.37 from helping the elderly couple next door with groceries. $3 from returning bottles. Every penny mattered when your mother needed medicine insurance wouldn't cover. While Thomas calculated profit margins, Sophia calculated how many minutes of treatment her mother could afford with a child's savings. The answer was always the same: not enough. The security guard almost stopped her at the lobby. Almost. But something in her eyes, determination beyond her years, made him hesitate just long enough for her to slip past. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt eternal, her handmade resume clutched tightly in small fingers, her heart hammering against her ribs. The assistant's eyes widened when Sophia announced she had important business with the CEO. Professional courtesy battled with confusion. Children didn't just walk into billion-dollar headquarters demanding meetings. But Sophia stood her ground, small shoulders squared, unwavering. Thomas glanced irritably at his watch when his assistant mentioned the unexpected visitor. Time was money, and this interruption was costing him both. Yet curiosity won. Who was this child who had somehow penetrated the fortress of his corporate kingdom? The executive assistant paused at the door, uncertainty flickering across her professional demeanor. "Sir, she's quite insistent." Thomas sighed heavily, rubbing his temples. 3 investor meetings, a board presentation, and now this, a child somehow bypassing his carefully constructed barriers of security protocols and appointment schedules. Fine. 5 minutes. The massive door to his office opened with a whisper of expensive engineering. Sophia took a deep breath, shoulders rising with the effort of courage. Her worn sneakers sank into plush carpet worth more than her mother's monthly rent. The ceiling soared overhead, the space bigger than their entire apartment. "I don't have time for games," Thomas said without looking up from his monitor. "Whatever school fundraiser you're selling, my assistant can write a check." Sophia clutched her paper tighter, knuckles whitening. She had practiced this moment 100 times in their bathroom mirror, mouthing the words until they sounded grown up enough to be taken seriously. "I'm not selling anything, sir. I'm here to apply for a job." That made him look up. The girl standing before him couldn't have been older than 10. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, the kind that spoke of adult worries in a child's world. Her clothes were clean but worn, her posture rigid with determination. Thomas leaned back, momentarily intrigued despite his irritation. "A job? At my company? Shouldn't you be in school right now? It's lunch period. I have 43 minutes left before I need to be back." Sophia stepped forward, placing her carefully folded paper on his desk. "My resume, sir." The CEO glanced at the paper, crayon header, computer-typed body text, clearly printed at a public library. He almost smiled at the absurdity. "You're wasting my time." Sophia didn't flinch. Didn't retreat. Her small fingers remained planted on his mahogany desk worth more than her mother's medical bills. "My mom's time is running out. Please look at my resume." Something in her tone, flat, factual, devoid of childish manipulation, made Thomas pause. He reached for the paper, unfolding its creased edges. Skills: good at math. Organized. Can clean offices after school hours. Available weekends. Experience: taking care of mom. Cooking dinner since age 8. Managing household budget. References: Mrs. Gonzalez, school counselor, Dr. Thompson, mom's doctor. His eyes narrowed at the last line. Doctor? Your mother is ill. Sophia nodded once, her composure slipping just slightly. Cancer. Stage 3. The insurance only covers the basic treatment. The medicine that's actually helping costs extra. Thomas's jaw tightened imperceptibly. The word cancer hung in the air between them, stirring memories he'd spent decades burying in work and wealth. That's unfortunate, he said, his voice clipped, professional. But we don't employ children. There are laws. I know about child labor laws, Sophia interrupted, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I researched them. But there must be exceptions. Or something else I could do. Filing? Cleaning? Anything. Thomas stood abruptly, walking to the window. The city sprawled below, his city, in many ways. His buildings. His investments. His legacy of steel and glass. How much? So. The treatments. How much do they cost? Sophia swallowed hard. $3,000 per treatment. Mom needs 6 more. We have $812 saved. Thomas's reflection in the glass showed no emotion, but his hand had curled into a fist at his side. The numbers were nothing to him, pocket change for a man who spent more on dinner. Yet they represented an impossible mountain for the child behind him. You're enterprising, he said finally. But this is a Fortune 500 company, not a charity. I don't want charity. The words, sharp, proud, made him turn. In that moment, he saw not just a child but a mirror of himself at that age. The same stubborn refusal to accept handouts. The same desperate need to earn what was needed. Then what do you want? To work, Sophia said simply. To help my mom like she's always helped me. The silence stretched between them, a man who had everything money could buy and a child who only wanted enough time with the one person who mattered. Thomas cleared his throat. Where is your mother now? Chemotherapy. Our neighbor picks her up when I'm at school. And she doesn't know you're here. Sophia shook her head. She'd be upset. Thomas returned to his desk, pressing the intercom. Cancel my next appointment. His assistant's surprise was audible even through the speaker. Sir, that's the Singapore investors. Reschedule. He released the button, fixing his gaze on Sophia. Tell me about your mother. Sophia reached into her small backpack, movement suddenly less certain. From between school notebooks, she withdrew a photograph protected in a plastic sandwich bag. With reverent care, she placed it on his desk. This was last summer. Before. The photo showed a woman and child at a park, sunlight catching in their matching dark hair. The woman's smile was radiant, her arm around her daughter's shoulders. No hint of the illness lurking within. This is her real smile, Sophia said, her voice finally betraying emotion. I need it back. Thomas stared at the image. Mother and daughter, joy unencumbered by medical bills and mortality. Something shifted in his expression, a barely perceptible softening around eyes hardened by years of ruthless business decisions. His hand moved toward the photograph, then stopped, hovering over the smiling faces. And you think working as my, what? Office assistant? That would save her. I think trying would be better than doing nothing, Sophia answered, wisdom beyond her years lacing each word. Mom always says we can't control what happens, only how we face it. Thomas's throat worked silently. Behind his designer glasses, something glistened briefly, a weakness he hadn't permitted himself in decades. His secretary buzzed again, but he ignored it. The silence in the vast office was filled with unspoken things, a child's desperate love, a man's buried memories, and the strange collision of two worlds never meant to intersect. Finally, Thomas Rivera, the man who hadn't shed a tear since childhood, found himself undone by 12 simple words from Sophia's lips. "I'm the only one she has left. Please don't let her die." No manipulation. No theatrics. Just raw truth delivered with the devastating directness only a child could manage. His carefully constructed walls, built over decades of cutthroat business and emotional isolation, cracked. A single tear tracked down his face, shocking them both. Would you help Sophia? What would you do if a determined child stood before you, asking not for handouts but for a chance to save someone they loved? Would your heart open or would business protocols prevail? The moment of truth had arrived for Thomas Rivera. The most important business decision of his life wasn't about mergers or acquisitions but about mercy. About remembering what truly matters when balance sheets are set aside. For a man who measured everything in profit margins, could a child's love possibly prove valuable enough to invest in? Thomas Rivera wiped the tear away with the back of his hand, embarrassed by this betrayal of his carefully cultivated image. For 20 years, no one in his corporate kingdom had seen him display anything but calculated control. Now, a child had cracked his armor with nothing but raw honesty. He cleared his throat, straightening his Italian silk tie. "I apologize for my reaction." Sophia stood motionless, startled by the sudden vulnerability from this tower of power. She hadn't expected tears. She'd expected rejection, perhaps security escorting her out. But not this. Silence hung between them, the billionaire and the brave girl, stretching thin across the vast expanse of marble and mahogany. Outside, the city continued its relentless pace. Inside, time seemed suspended. "Your resume is unique," Thomas finally said, his voice carefully recalibrated to its normal business-like tone. He tapped the folded paper with manicured fingers. "But you understand I can't possibly hire you." Sophia's shoulders dropped just slightly. This was the rejection she'd prepared herself for on the bus ride over. Still, hearing it aloud stung more than she'd anticipated. "I understand. Thank you for your time, sir." She reached for her resume, dignity intact despite the disappointment crushing her chest. "I didn't say I couldn't help." Sophia's hand froze mid-reach. Thomas stood, pacing behind his desk. The afternoon sun caught his silhouette, casting a long shadow across the polished floor. "Tell me more about your mother's condition." "The specifics." Hope flickered dangerously in Sophia's eyes. "The doctors say she needs specialized treatment. Something about targeted therapy that insurance won't cover. 6 more sessions, then surgery." Thomas nodded, processing this information with the same analytical precision he applied to business acquisitions. "And you live where exactly?" "Pine Heights. Apartment 403. It's not fancy, but it's home. The notorious housing project." Thomas knew it well. His company had nearly purchased the land beneath it last year for redevelopment. The deal fell through on technicalities. "You came all this way, through downtown, alone?" His brow furrowed. "That's nearly 2 hours by public transit." Sophia nodded. "I saved my lunch money for the bus fare." Something shifted in Thomas's expression, respect mingling with disbelief. This child had navigated a city that intimidated grown adults, fueled by nothing but desperate love and determination. "Why me? Why my company specifically?" Sophia's answer came without hesitation. "You were at the top of the richest people list I found at the library. And your building was the easiest to find." The brutal simplicity of her logic nearly made him smile. Thomas returned to his seat, steepling his fingers beneath his chin. His business mind calculated costs, implications, precedents. If word got out that he'd helped one random child, how many more would follow? PR complications, tax implications, boardroom justifications. Yet something deeper, something long dormant, stirred beneath those practical concerns. Most adults would have applied for assistance programs, he observed. Not marched into a CEO's office demanding employment. Sophia's gaze remained steady. Programs have wait lists. Mom doesn't have time for wait lists. The clock on the wall ticked loudly between them. Thomas glanced at the photograph still lying on his desk, mother and daughter, smiling in simpler times. Tell me about her, he said softly. Not her illness. Her. Sophia's composure wavered for the first time. Her fingers twisted nervously in the hem of her shirt. She works 3 jobs. Cleaning offices at night, data entry during the day, weekend shifts at the grocery store. Pride crept into her voice. She never complains. Even now, with the treatments making her sick, she still tries to work. The managers let her rest in the break room when she gets too dizzy. Thomas winced internally, the image hitting closer to home than he cared to acknowledge. And she still finds time for you. Sophia nodded. Always. She helps with homework between shifts. Braids my hair even when her hands shake from the medicine. Makes sure I have lunch money. Her voice grew smaller. She thinks I don't notice when she doesn't eat dinner so I can have more. Thomas turned toward the window, hands clasped behind his back. The empire below, his empire, suddenly seemed hollow. 47 floors of ambition and achievement, yet when was the last time anyone had spoken of him with the devotion this child held for her mother? What would you do, he asked quietly. If you could do anything to help her, beyond working here. Sophia's answer came without hesitation. Make her better. Give her time to rest. See her smile again, really smile, not the pretend one she uses at the hospital. The simplicity of her wishes struck him with unexpected force. Not mansions or millions. Just wellness. Rest. Joy? Thomas looked down at the photograph once more, then at the child who had crossed a city to save her mother. When he spoke, the calculated persona of Thomas Rivera, CEO, had vanished. In its place stood simply a man confronting long-buried truths. My mom died poor, he said, the words raw and unfiltered. I was building my first company. Too busy for hospital visits. Too focused on success to notice she was skipping meals to send me money. His voice dropped to nearly a whisper. I won't let yours die too. In that moment, the vast office seemed to shrink around them. Not CEO and child, but 2 humans connected by understanding that transcended age and wealth. Sophia's shoulders relaxed slightly, reading truth in his unguarded expression. What happens now? She asked quietly. Thomas pressed the intercom. Janet, cancel all my appointments for the remainder of the day. And have the car brought around. He released the button, focus entirely on Sophia now. Now, we go to the hospital. Together. The sun shifted through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting the office in golden light. 2 worlds had collided, and neither would ever be quite the same. The hospital corridor buzzed with the quiet efficiency of life and death decisions made hourly. Doctors glanced curiously at the incongruous pair walking through the oncology ward, a power-suited millionaire and a small girl with determination in her stride. Isabella Rodriguez looked up from her hospital bed, confusion clouding her tired eyes as her daughter entered with a stranger in an expensive suit. The chemotherapy drip beside her bed ticked away steadily, measuring life in transparent drops. Sophia? What are you? Her voice, though weakened, carried the unmistakable tone of maternal concern. You should be in school. What happened in that hospital room remained private. A conversation between a desperate mother, her brave daughter, and a CEO whose world had just been irrevocably altered. The medical staff whispered about the man who arrived in a chauffeur-driven car but spoke with unexpected gentleness. By evening, Isabella Rodriguez's medical chart had acquired a mysterious notation, all treatments authorized. Financial clearance complete. The head oncologist received an email from Thomas Rivera's private account, not his assistants, provide everything. Whatever she needs. Send the bills directly to me. Autumn turned to winter. The The treatments continued, but with a crucial difference. Isabella no longer needed to choose between medicine and rent. The specialized medications previously beyond reach now arrived without question or delay. She never saw the bills. They disappeared into the vast financial machinery of Rivera Enterprises, processed through a private account Thomas had created specifically for this purpose. His accountants raised eyebrows at the new expenditure category simply labeled Priority Wellness Fund, but none dared question it. The hospital social worker who had watched Isabella struggle for months was baffled by the sudden change in circumstances. "You have an anonymous benefactor," she explained during a follow-up visit. "Someone has authorized comprehensive care." Isabella suspected. Sophia remained conspicuously silent whenever the topic arose. The corporate world noticed subtle shifts in Thomas Rivera's management style. The CEO, known for ruthless efficiency, began asking department heads about their families. The man who once scheduled meetings during holidays now enforced strict work-life balance policies. His executive assistant nearly dropped her tablet when he requested information about the company's healthcare plans for lower-level employees. "Are dependent coverage options adequate?" he asked. "Children specifically?" The board members exchanged glances during quarterly meetings as Thomas proposed a foundation for families facing catastrophic medical expenses. "It's good business," he insisted when questioned. "Healthy communities create healthy markets." None connected these changes to a child's visit 3 months prior. None except his assistant, who had witnessed a 10-year-old walk out with the CEO's personal business card clutched in her small hand. In Pine Heights, apartment 403 underwent its own transformation. Fresh paint covered the water stains on the ceiling. The temperamental refrigerator was replaced with a reliable model. The building manager, baffled by the anonymous maintenance requests, shrugged and completed the repairs without question. Isabella's recovery progressed slowly but steadily. Color returned to her hollowed cheeks. Her hair began growing back, wispy at first, then stronger. The doctors spoke the word remission with cautious optimism. When strength permitted, she attempted returning to her multiple jobs. She found one position already filled, another reorganized. Only the data entry supervisor welcomed her back, with surprisingly flexible hours and mysteriously improved healthcare benefits. Then came the letter from Rivera Enterprises' finance department. Not a bill or rejection, but an invitation to interview for a senior accounting position. In Thomas's office, change manifested in subtle ways. The austere space remained largely untouched, except for one wall previously dominated by a stern portrait of the company's founding board chairman. In its place hung a simple black frame containing a child's resume, crayon header still visible above carefully typed text. Visitors who noticed received no explanation. Thomas would simply change the subject with practiced efficiency. But sometimes, alone after hours, he would stand before it, contemplating the crumpled paper that had somehow shifted his perspective on success and legacy. His assistant pretended not to notice the scheduled monthly reminders that appeared on his calendar, SR school conference and IR medical checkup. Sophia's world expanded beyond hospital waiting rooms and worried nights. With her mother's improving health came the luxury of normal childhood concerns, homework, friendships, future dreams. Her shoulders straightened, no longer bearing weight too heavy for her years. In her classroom, teachers noted the change. The quiet girl who had missed assignments and dozed during lessons now raised her hand confidently. Her math scores, already strong, soared. When struggling classmates asked for help, she created simplified worksheets for them, explaining complex problems with patient clarity. "You'd make a good teacher," her math instructor commented after observing one such tutoring session. Sophia smiled, her mother's smile, thoughtful and determined. "Maybe. Or maybe a CEO." Thomas received weekly updates on Isabella's condition through the hospital administrator, all confidential, all indicating steady improvement. He never visited their apartment, understanding instinctively that some forms of help preserve dignity through distance. Instead, he created opportunities. Isabella's accounting position came with mentorship programs and advancement potential. The education trust established for Sophia required no acknowledgement or gratitude. He made certain both carried the weight of earned achievement rather than charity. Only once did he speak directly with Isabella after that first hospital meeting. A brief, accidental encounter in the company's main lobby, she leaving her interview, he returning from a meeting. "Mr. Rivera," she said, recognition dawning. "I believe I have you to thank for." He shook his head once, gently interrupting. "Your daughter is remarkable. The world needs more of her determination." No further explanation was necessary. 6 months after Sophia walked into Thomas's office, she revised her resume. The school assignment asked students to update their skills and experiences for future career planning. Under skills, between good at math and organized, she added a new line in her careful handwriting, "CEO's friend." Her teacher circled it with a question mark. Sophia left it unchanged. Meanwhile, in Thomas's desk drawer, a photograph found permanent residence. Mother and child in a sunny park, before illness cast its shadow. He never displayed it publicly. But its presence reminded him daily of what truly constituted success. Lives intersect in unexpected ways. Sometimes a single encounter, a desperate child, a powerful executive, one sentence spoken from the heart, creates ripples that transform multiple worlds. Thomas Rivera still ran his empire with precision and vision. Isabella Rodriguez still managed her household with care and determination. Sophia still approached life's challenges with unwavering resolve. But something fundamental had shifted between them, a connection forged in vulnerability and strength that redefined what it meant to build something of genuine value. After all, towers of glass and steel eventually fall. But love, stubborn, resourceful, unrelenting love, that foundation endures. 2 years later, the conference room on the 45th floor buzzed with understated celebration. Crystal glasses clinked softly against the backdrop of quiet conversations. The space, normally reserved for high-stakes negotiations and strategy sessions, had been transformed with subtle touches of warmth for the evening. A small group gathered around Isabella Rodriguez, whose professional attire and confident posture revealed no trace of the hospital patient she had once been. The finance department's newest director of special projects accepted congratulations with gracious dignity. Thomas observed from the periphery, allowing her this moment of professional recognition untainted by personal connection. The board members knew nothing of their history, nothing of a desperate child who had walked into his office and changed everything. Only he noticed the young girl standing proudly beside her mother, now 12 inches taller, her eyes taking in the corporate surroundings with familiarity rather than intimidation. When the formal presentations concluded and conversations fragmented into smaller groups, Thomas approached them with deliberate casualness, maintaining the careful boundary they had established. "Congratulations, Director Rodriguez. The promotion is well-deserved." Isabella nodded, professional yet warm. "Thank you, Mr. Rivera. The opportunity has been life-changing." The unspoken understanding between them hung in the air, acknowledgement of a journey that had begun with a child's determination and tear-stained resume. Sophia watched their exchange with knowing eyes that missed nothing. She had grown from the frightened child with crumpled paper into a confident preteen with academic honors and quiet strength. Her mother's daughter in every meaningful way. As the evening wound down and guests began departing, Thomas found himself momentarily alone by the windows, looking out at the city lights below. The same view that had once represented his conquest now reminded him of interconnection, how countless lives intertwined in ways invisible from 45 stories above. Sophia appeared silently beside him, her reflection joining his in the darkened glass. "Mom's doing great," she said without preamble. "Her doctor says 5 years cancer-free is the big milestone. We're at 2 years, 4 months, and 17 days." Thomas smiled at the precise count. "I'm glad to hear it." "She doesn't know I know," Sophia continued, her voice soft. "About what you did. About the bills, the apartment repairs, the job interview." "Your mother earned everything through her own merit," Thomas replied carefully. "She's exceptionally talented." Sophia nodded. "She is. But you gave her the chance when no one else would." The simple truth hung between them, neither denial nor acknowledgement necessary. The city twinkled below, millions of lights representing millions of stories intersecting in ways no one could fully comprehend. For a moment, both were silent, contemplating different perspectives of the same journey. "I thought I built empires," Thomas said finally, gesturing toward the skyline bearing his company's logo on multiple buildings. "Sophia taught me to build legacies." The girl looked up at him, the man who had once seemed as unreachable as the moon now standing beside her as something much more meaningful than a corporate titan. "You're not a CEO today," she whispered, with the same direct honesty that had first cracked his defenses. "You're a hero." In the reflection of the glass, Thomas Rivera, the man who once measured success in billions, found himself unexpectedly wealthy in ways his younger self could never have imagined. Not all resumes lead to jobs. Sometimes they lead to something far more valuable, connections that transform, heal, and redeem. Sometimes the most important business decision isn't about profit margins or market expansions, but about recognizing the immeasurable worth of a single human life. Sometimes the most powerful words aren't spoken in boardrooms or courtrooms, but whispered through tears by a child with nothing left to lose. And sometimes, just sometimes, those words change everything. If this story moved you, share it. Someone out there needs a reminder that courage comes in all sizes, that sometimes the smallest hands can open the most guarded hearts. The world is full of Sophias, fighting battles too big for their young shoulders. And perhaps it needs more Thomas Riveras willing to look beyond boardrooms and balance sheets to the human stories unfolding all around them. And if you're new here, hit subscribe and turn on notification.